in this project?
I think when we talk about the generations, the differences between the generations, me and my mother and my grandmother and so on, this was a very special moment of the project.
I agree. The generational nuances were some of my favorites. We were assigned a creative project to submit 2 pictures, one that represented your mother's life choices and one that represented yours, and to write a statement for both, reflecting on them. That was my absolute favorite, and we got some incredible images, which hopefully are up on the site, some of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the generational dichotomies and also similarities were really interesting. And of course, to think of one's mother as an individual is a study in itself. I think that was really powerful in attributing a socioeconomic personhood to a central figure in most of our lives.
And I think it's interesting that we have Maya today who's going to talk about that later, and the fact that this just, was something that they all shared. And I think we could have talked about that topic for months probably and shared content. So that was really incredible. One question from the audience is, what were some of the biggest preconceptions you had about women in the other countries before you started the project? And how did those shift as a result of the collaboration?
Probably when it comes to students from the United States, they give the facade that they're very well off, but then when you started talking to them, they have to pave their way through college. It's very much different in the Philippines because you have your family to always support you financially. So that's an eye-opener for me.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I believe that before I started out this project, I thought that I would have a lot more in common with the American women, because we share a lot of common cultural things, music, videos, movies, literature. But after reading the post, it has become clear to me that the family life and to be at home with your family is still a very strong tendency in the United States. And in Denmark, it's very important that if you have a family, then you are still on the labor market. That is not necessarily 2 things at a side.
Also, I think I was thinking about that Sudan is very different. It's a very different country, and there are very different between Denmark, US, and Philippines. But after the project, I find that there are very similarities between us and Philippines, and they are very similar in their relations, in the education, and how the economic crisis affected the Sudanese woman. Also, the Philippines woman is the same effect. So, that's right.
And how has this project impacted your thoughts or ideas about gender in general?
We Danish students participate in this project as a part of our education. So we have had a bit of written task during the last 6 months. And in the beginning, in autumn, we had to write an essay about how we perceive the financial crisis. And none of us, we are 11 Danish students, and none of us mentioned the word gender, or that how the financial crisis have had a special impact on women and young women. But recently we just delivered our last essay, and it's clearly that we have become more aware about gender issues. So that has been definitely an eye-opener to us, that gender issues is still very, very important to highlight.
And is that something, Christina, you're considering bringing into your own work later on?
How should I explain it? In the European Union, you have a mainstreaming policy, which means that each time you create a new policy, you think in terms of gender. And the thing about including gender and gender policy has become part of, I don't know how to explain it. I think a lot more in terms of gender than I did before. It didn't exist before.
Well, I always think in terms of gender. Women's studies major, and ardent feminist. And so gender was something that was already kind of on the forefront of my consciousness inherently because of what I'm passionate about as a person and academically. But what really became more developed for me was kind of de-homogenizing Europe and Asia in terms of interacting with these women from all of these continents, including Africa, and understanding the nuances of privilege, of family, of relationships, of opportunity, and especially, I think, the individual's relationship to their government and to their market. So that was something that was new for me, was nuance in terms of what I already thought I was aware of.
The new one is, for me, in gender, translate what we are studied to in the practicing. So it's the first time to practice what we are studying in the gender studies and women's studies and so on that we took in the university. So it was a nice experience to practice what we are studying in the real life.
And also in Miriam College, we are very big in women empowerment and gender equality. We actually have one minor in gender studies. So the thing is, we always think forefront about gender with the Miriam College students, but with the project, it sort of made it more cohesive with the thought of economy, because it goes beyond that, especially if you're going to think about the perspective of women.
And Iman, your project, which ends the reel here, gives a very upbeat, hopeful image of women in Sudan. And your name means faith in Arabic, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, for all of you even, what are some of your hopes for women in your country?
I think I hope the women in my country to get her rights and the equality of women. And I think the equality and the empowerment of women I hope that to empower women more and get her rights and things like that. And reduce, as Ola said also, that to reduce the female genital mutilation. Also, it is a big issue in the Sudan. I think, yeah. Then we are going the right road for that. The numbers are minimized now, but also in the rural area, we want more work in the rural area for that. I think to empower women more.
Well, a hope that I have for women in my country specifically is that we will recognize that there is inequality. I think that that's half the battle, is realizing that we have something to struggle against, and understanding that individually, to be a woman and to survive and make your own happiness in the United States, to be a young woman, in my experience necessitates a DIY method of winging it and piecing together ways to survive and make meaning in what is necessary in your life. And I really want women to understand that we are socialized to believe that we have nothing in common with other women, and that is a very deliberate tool to keep us from achieving solidarity. And so my vision for women is to realize that our struggle is collective and to unite.
My hope for the women of my country is being more aware of their rights, to speak about it, to stand up about it. I mean, it's already starting. Women are given more rights than they did before. So, because I know knowledge is a very powerful thing to use. So I just hope that it would become more accessible to other women, to become more educated about these rights.
I think that it's important today that Danish women recognize that they won't achieve further gender equality just by waiting, but they have to stand up themselves and express their wishes.
Thank you. So, questions from the audience. There's interest in what careers you guys are pursuing and what you'd like to achieve.
Probably start that one.
Okay.
Currently, I want to go into nonprofit organizations that focuses more on development assistance. So, but the hard thing would be it requires to have a master's degree or to have at least a bazillion years of work experience. So it's hard. So you don't really have an option for a fresh graduate. So the next course for us would be to get a master's degree. But I would really want to go to development assistance.
I already have one more year in my university, so I have to finish that first. And after that, I want to continue in my study, maybe the master's degree or something like that. And also continuing the volunteering work to empower women in Sudan. Thanks.
As a student of history, I'm always asked what I'm educating myself for, but I really don't, I don't know what's at the end of my education yet. I hope that I will be able to pursue an international career, but I'm not sure in which field.
I don't know either specifically. We were sharing some of our ideas for our dream jobs on the Facebook forum, and I said my dream job doesn't have a title yet. So I'm thinking of going into either education and academia or law and policy. And I'm also interested in philanthropy work as well, so some combination of that.
And one last question. People were interested in specifics about some of the multi-generational differences or similarities that you experienced. So those conversations you had about your mothers and the generations before you. What were some of the similarities that you felt between the generations and the stories that you shared?
You can see there was a lot of diversity.
Exactly. Well, there's also a lot of detail too, if I remember
Very
correctly.
much,
People went
yeah.
into a lot of detail about that.
The age for settling down has definitely increased. That both our parents and grandmothers, they were quite young when they settled down, got married and had kids. While we will have our education, we will settle on the job market before getting married, before having kids.
That and no longer having a choice between staying at home and going into the public sector for work, having the need for both parents to be in the public sector, regardless of your family ideology. That was another commonality I noticed.
Probably one of the things that my mom told me was like, education choices, probably. She told me that nowadays it's quite complicated because you're branching out different areas of studies now, but it sort of opens more opportunities for the young generation now compared to them. They have to go, you just say, I want to be a doctor, you get medicine. I want to be an accountant, you go accountancy, but now you have like different areas of specialization now, so.
Thank you. I think another thing I noticed was how many stories of strong women you guys shared in your families, of your mothers before you, and maybe that's a good transition to end our dialogue and move into the next part of the program. Maya, I want to thank you very much for your participation here, for coming to the United States.
I want to thank Reshma and all our participants so much, and I hope you feel that that dialogue gave you just a glimpse and a flavour of the diversity and powerful perspectives that are embraced within this project. And if you can imagine, there are another 40 young women who are as passionate and as articulate as the women that you've seen on stage this evening who share those perspectives in our exhibition.